Hey there, it's Melissa with Atlas CFO. Today's topic is backlog. I'm wondering how excited you are right now. I know, backlog. Actually, backlog is very exciting. It tells us so many different things, and it is a question that we will get sometimes from outside partners. Maybe it's your surety or your bonding manager or your bank. They want to know about what your project backlog looks like. And that sometimes can be hard to determine. So today we're going to talk about what backlog looks like on contracts that are currently in progress. So there's really two definitions of backlog. Sorry, it just depends on who's asking the question. Sometimes people are asking about revenue backlog. So that is the future revenue on the contracts that you haven't earned yet. So we're going to get into an example in a little bit, but they're really asking about future revenue, which is different than whenever someone's asking about the cost to complete. So both of those names could be defined as backlog, and you may even get a question about backlog, but you might have to clarify, are you looking for backlog revenue or backlog cost to complete? One of the keys to determining backlog is you have to have a date, you have to have a backstop to say, okay, as of this date, what is the backlog? So before we get started in how to calculate this, you'll have to come up with the date that you're going to determine this. Most of the time this is a month end, and this rolls with the accounting system, the accounting cycle. So you have a real system in construction accounting, and it has a ebb and a flow, and it follows a very strategic schedule. One of the pieces of the schedule is cutoff, and cutoff happens somewhere towards the end of the month to the first of the month, and that cutoff date is as of a month end. So when you're calculating backlog, you want to make sure that you are using a strong cutoff so that you don't get mix and matching. That's no good. So first I'm going to give you the calculation. Math time. So what is backlog? Well, we're going to use my more favorite term for backlog, which is backlog revenue. So we're going to use backlog revenue for a lot of our discussion here as we move forward. So what would be backlog revenue? Well, it would be the contract amount times 1 minus percent complete. Yeah. You love it when I give you algebraic formulas. You're welcome. You're welcome. Okay, so then you probably have a lot more questions after this. Well, what's percent complete? We have several different videos on YouTube that you can learn more about percent complete, but we're going to break that down right now, and we're going to talk more about percent complete and the WIP schedule and under overbillings and all that fancy stuff, also that you can determine what is backlog. Yes. Okay, so what is percent complete? Percent complete is the cost to date divided by your total estimated cost. Now, that's a pretty simplified version, but at least get you started. And I'm going to go a step further and give you some examples, but you can see that we're back to this date. So how much cost did you have as of a certain date divided by how much the total cost is, right? Okay, so that would be percent complete. Go back to the formula. And then you've got the rest of that. So let's just say you're 55% complete. So 45% of that would move into the future. That would mean 45% of your contract would be backlog, right? Pretty easy. Let's move on and just use a really quick example with a 50%. So let's say that we have 50% complete. We have 50% on the job. So our percent complete is 50%, and our backlog would be 50%. And you can modify that up or down just so that you can follow along, but you're really just taking whatever is left over based on your percent complete and multiplying that times the contract, or if you're doing cost, you could multiply that on the estimated cost. So let's look at an example and see why it is so much easier whenever we're doing our percent complete calculation with a work in progress and calculating and recording under overbillings. Okay, so this we're kind of making a jump here, but this makes it so much easier whenever you use a work in progress. Otherwise, it feels like you're kind of guessing. So let's look at this first one. If we are in this top section and the question is, what is backlog revenue? Well, it kind of depends because we haven't billed anything. So that means all of our revenue is our backlog, but we already have some costs. So if we were going to give somebody our backlog revenue, it would be $120,000. But if we were going to give somebody our backlog cost, it would be $45,000. Well, that doesn't seem to make a lot of sense, does it? Our backlog isn't helping us much. This makes backlog calculation very confusing if you're not using a percent complete method for your internal books because, well, it depends on what the question is and depends on the day and depends. That makes it impossible to really see this whole system flow. So we're going to go down to this bottom section, and this is what it would look like if you were using the percent complete method. Yeah, this percent complete of revenue recognition. Again, this is a build on video, so you might look at those other topics in our YouTube lineup. When you use percent complete, you're going to determine how much you've already earned. So you're going to look at how much revenue did I earn and then how much is backlog. So we're going to take the same exact job, but whenever we use a percent complete in the WIP schedule, backlog for both revenue and costs is so much easier because it makes more sense. Let's look at that first line. So we don't have any revenue, right? But because of the under-over billing adjustment, the work in progress adjustment, the percent complete adjustment, you know, all the AKAs, we get to the point where we have earned, that we have recorded $60,000 or 50% of the job. So now we can easily say we've got 50% of the cost, 50% of the billing, and so what is backlog? That's easy. It's just the remaining 50%. Otherwise, if you go in that top section and you try to determine backlog, it's like wibbly wobbly. It doesn't really make a lot of sense because you're going to have backlog in one section that is way higher than your backlog in the other. So in order to calculate a proper backlog, your percent complete becomes paramount to getting this number correct and knowing what is going to flow into that next period. So backlog is easier. And actually, you can even put it on the same schedule. I actually keep backlog on my work in progress schedule just so I can have it handy. And this backlog will tell you so many things. Whenever you're using the percent complete method, the WIP schedule, the work in progress schedule, when you're using this method, you not only can see how much your backlog is, but you can also see how much you have left to cover overhead. Right? Now backlog is really exciting. It was exciting before, but now it's really exciting because we can see into the future. Backlog is a key component in determining what you're going to look like for the rest of the year. Yes, how exciting is this? So how do you get to where you can calculate backlog easily? Well, that is the work in progress schedule. That is our fancy tool. It's my favorite report. I love, love, love the work in progress schedule. And I have spent 20 years teaching people how to use this one report that makes life easy. So I call it the WIP schedule, but sometimes I even call it the job schedule, or contract schedule, or job. I mean, oh gosh, there's a bunch of names. So the understanding is that you want one of these in your company so that you can calculate all of the various beautiful things that come along with it. Cash flow, backlog, recognizing the timing difference. It's the one report to rule them all. And this one schedule allows you to calculate revenue backlog, cost backlog, and gross profit backlog, which means if you can calculate gross profit backlog, you can start looking at your overhead coverage. Yes, right away. It's very exciting. It's one of my favorites. So there's so many things you can do with this one schedule, and one of the items that comes out of it is backlog. Way fun. If you'd like to learn more about the work in progress schedule, if this is something you think can really help your business, we have something to hook you up. We've created a WIP schedule class, and it is in our description and also on our website. We know it is going to make a huge difference in your business, and we want to share our methods and our knowledge so that you too can have this beautiful forward vision on backlog. Thanks for spending time with me today. I enjoy our time, and I hope to see you soon.